A production of Flint Energies, your local touchtone energy cooperative. Front Porch Chats brings you along while we share interesting events, places to go, important programs, and hidden gems located in Central and Southwest Georgia. Grab a glass of iced tea while we chat for a spell. Hi, I'm Natalie Bradley, your host of Front Porch Chats. Today, we have two very special guests with us. We have Miss Nikki and Miss Patty, and you are going to find out all about what Jugs and Crawford County have in common and why you should care about it. We have an exciting festival that's coming up, and there's a lot of history involved in a good many, if not all, of our Southern festivals. And this one I find particularly interesting because I just discovered the history and backstory of it, and I thought that all of you would enjoy it as well. We're all looking for something to do when the weather gets warm outside, and you do not want to miss this opportunity to get out in Central Georgia and have a great time with your family. So first, I'm going to let our guests introduce themselves. We've had a little bit of a comical start that y'all have not been privy to this morning, and I just keep changing their names. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves so that we know where they work, what their position is, how they're involved with this festival, and we'll just kind of hit the ground running there. So Miss Patty, do you want to go first?
Yes, this is Miss Patty, and my last name is Temple. I'm the executive director of the Roberta Crawford County Chamber of Commerce, and I love my job. I like being around the people, but I really like it when it's Georgia JugFest time. It's very important to the chamber, as this had its beginnings with our chamber.
Absolutely. Nikki, how about you?
My name is Nikki McDonald. I am currently the Crawford County Historical Society president and also sitting JugFest chairperson for this year's festival. I love the history that is involved with, I learn new things all the time. When I came into this, I knew nothing about the pottery aspect and history of Crawford County, and I had been living here for quite a few decades.
Oh, wow.
So I kind of it's currently my thing to get it out there that, there is a rich history here that a lot of Crawford Countyans have no idea about.
Now, I don't live here, but I had no clue. And I just thought, well, this is so fascinating. I think that, there's a lot of history buffs that enjoy also going to festivals, but then there's just a lot of people that I think enjoy knowing kind of the roots of a place and the stories of the people that make it interesting. People that are no longer here and the ones that continue to carry it on, I think are equally interesting. So whoever wants to go first on this, when did JugFest begin? And what exactly is it? Why is it called JugFest?
The JugFest began after the Chamber of Commerce decided that they wanted to have a festival of their own, and it was called the Little Brown Jug Festival. The Little Brown Jug Festival was focused on pottery.
Okay.
And our first potter that ever came was Shelby West. He was also one of our graduates from the local high school, and he had this fantastic talent to turn these pieces of clay into beautiful works. And it went from there, and the Historical Society came to me and said that this needs to go with the Historical Society as well. So after explaining what they wanted to do, and the chamber said, yes, we'd partner together. So now it's been partnered for 19 years.
That's awesome.
And it's becoming its own now. The reason we chose the pottery is because it's the pottery that kept the farmers here in bread and butter by selling their pottery during the off season for the harvest. So that's one part of it. That's only one part of it. It was brought to us from Washington County, and one of these fantastic people up here, there's a surrounding of pottery pictures that we honor our potter, and the Historical Society has that part in it. It's very important. And through this, a beautiful underground kiln was erected by the potters who wanted to do it the old-fashioned way. And so every year we open that up, and it's fired the old-fashioned way in an underground kiln.
So that underground kiln actually has historical meaning here. Like that's not a new thing, correct?
Yes, it has historical.
Okay. So tell a little bit more of the history of the pottery and the jugs with Crawford County.
Well, Crawford County was actually like a major pottery center in the 1800s and into the 1930s with many families, including the Longs, the Merritts, the Averets, Bryants, Piles. I mean, there's many listed. Crawford is actually listed in a book called Brothers in Clay.
Okay.
That was published that actually highlights the southeastern folk art pottery, because it wasn't just jugs that were made. There was also, I mean, they made daily ware such as like bowls, storage containers, but they also made face jugs, which is something that most people would look at and be like, oh, well, my third grader can do that. Well, yeah, they can. But it actually comes from a longer history of the jugs. There has been some discussion from historical scholars about where they really came from as far as time period, but they were adopted over the years, and you will still find a lot of potters today, especially in the southern areas, still do make face jugs.
Yeah, I think they're fascinating.
Yes.
But I don't know the history of it, so that's interesting.
Yes. There is some notation with tongue-in-cheek.
Okay.
That some of these potters decided, because they also have moonshine, that that went into the face jugs, into the closet. And when the kids went in there, their ugly faces and their scary faces would be looking at them, and they'd close
scare them away.
They would not get in there again and try and see what was in it.
Really?
That we don't know is true.
That's a good story, though.
Yes,
Let's go with it.
Story.
Yes.
With it. Yes.
Can you imagine this?
That would scare me. Keep the kids off the moonshine. I like it.
Some of the faces are really ugly.
Yeah, they can be a little frightening. Yeah.
Yes, they can.
Yeah. So I've noticed some potters that have even kind of taken that concept in some boutiques just throughout Georgia that I've noticed that they've taken the face jug concept onto like giant oversized coffee mugs.
Yes.
That are pottery. And I mean, some of the faces are hysterical, and you can drink your coffee and it's looking at whatever. And I mean, it's a great way to wake up.
Yeah.
So I love that history. Okay. So a lot of this has to do with, like you said, the clay in the soil here that made it like the perfect recipe for this pottery.
Yes.
And so that's kind of the backbone of this festival then are your potters that come to the area, right?
Yes.
Okay. Before we get too far into this, when is JugFest?
May 18th.
Okay.
From 9 a.m. until 9 at night.
Okay. All right.
Because we have the city of Roberta also joining in. So it'll kind of move in. It will start down there at the field where it's always been. And we'll have the vendors there. We'll have other vendors there.
So for people that aren't from here, they don't know where it's always been. So what field are we talking about? When we say that? Knoxville Field. Okay.
It's the Knoxville Field actually sits behind the old Knoxville Courthouse.
Okay.
There actually will be signage along the roads to find it. But the other thing we also have is we do have a 5K and 1 mile fun run that actually starts at 7:30. There is a Facebook page. If you look up GA JugFest 5K and 1 mile fun run, you can go through there and email the coordinator for that to get set up if that's something.
Yes.
I'm not a runner. I'm more of a, if I'm running, you might want to run
Someone's
with me
chasing
because
me. Yes.
something's coming after me.
Same.
You know, just saying. But there are plenty of people who love to run, and it's just it is a great opportunity. It's also a great thing for getting the community involved.
Absolutely.
Because I have seen so many, I mean, young and old who come and do it. And I mean, it's every year.
And this is a more laid back one where you could technically walk run, right? If you wanted to.
Well,
or is that the fun run?
That's more the fun run. The 5K, it is part of the run circuit.
Oh, okay. So they're getting their.
So they actually get their points and stuff for that. If you wanted to do the 5K and you don't want to run it, I mean, that is entirely up to however you want to do it. But the fun run is more the whole, like, you can pretty much however you can finish it.
Okay. Perfect. And we'll put in the show notes a link to the Facebook page to make it easy for anyone listening. And then do you have a separate Facebook page just for the JugFest itself?
Yes. There's actually 5 pages that will be running information.
Okay.
The Roberta Crawford Chamber of Commerce will have theirs. I will be posting things on the Crawford County Historical Society page. Then you have the one for, like I just mentioned, for the 5K.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is also one that is it is Georgia JugFest.
Okay.
And then also new this year, the city of Roberta is actually going to be partnering with both the Chamber and the Historic Society to bring more events. Normally, the festival ended at about 4:00 or so. This year, we're actually going into the evening hours and going to be doing a kind of a party in the park food truck event.
That's awesome.
We're going to have music. We're going to have a lot of food trucks out there. We're going to have some, I believe we're looking at a cornhole tournament and all that information. We're still in the works of actually nailing everything down. So all that information will be posted on the social media pages and will be shared constantly.
Okay. So we'll put links to all those on there so that everyone can find information very easily.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said, this year it's May 18th, 2024. If it's always the third Saturday in May, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That is exciting. I love that it's become like, an all day and into the evening event. You can really make a day and night of it, truly. What are some ways that JugFest differs from other festivals? And let's talk about some of the activities and events that y'all have going
on. One that's very, very important, and because it is really typically Crawford County, is the history of Crawford County is in this.
Okay.
Historical Society member, but they cover all of the potters and they highlight the potters. And I'm going to let her tell the story about that.
Okay.
But it fascinates me that they go back and they look at, if you were in this room, you could see all the potters that have been honored. And they do that because it's the richness of what was here on the soil. And it was the richness that somebody brought it here and said, we can do this in between harvest time. And this is something that has been in this county since the early 1800s. And heaven knows the Native Americans probably did the same thing a little differently as well.
Right.
Because of the clay that's here.
Yeah.
And of course, Crawford County wants to get known too. And that's why we want our festival to really spark up and bring people here who may never have had a chance to see what Crawford County is.
Sure.
And it's full of absolutely wonderful history.
Yeah.
First.
I love the creative avenue of the farmers figuring out that way to bring in another source of revenue. And I'm sure it's happened in other areas. I just don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about that. And that's just very, out of the box thinking and using the resources that you have right at your fingertips.
So Crawford County's always been out of the box.
Yeah, I love that.
The festival itself, while it doesn't center around food, it's no different than a lot of other festivals. It centers around community. And that's one of the things that we're trying to bring with the festival is getting the community together and just learning what's here. There are so many things, and it is a small town that that extends to the borders of our county. It is a very small town feel. We have 2 red lights, 2 stoplights.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we call them stoplights down here. Yes.
So it's very different. I remember a time when there was only one and the other was a blinking light. Yeah. So,
right.
it is very, we're trying to bring the community together because when all is said and done, all you have is, you have your family, but you have your community.
Right.
And there's a lot here that, like I said, most people really had no clue about. We have a monument in the center of town to Benjamin Hawkins. And unless you actually look it up, you would have no clue the impact he had on Crawford County and, the settling in this area. A lot of people overlook the history, the local history, because they go by what they're fed, especially now, it's whatever catches your interest. So it's to try to bring a little bit more spotlight to, the artisans, the potters. How many people know what their neighbor does?
Right.
You could have a very crafty neighbor who does these great works of art and you wouldn't know it because you don't know who your neighbor is.
Right.
Granted, Crawford is really one of those where everybody, it is a small town, and if they don't know your business, they might make it up.
Right.
Well, this too. If you look at it, this is where the center is now, Roberta, Roberta, Georgia. We have a county seat that's still recognized, even though it's not in a city, but it's still named Knoxville for that reason. But
and it's like right there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, I don't even know if it's a mile.
It is.
It is
about a mile.
Okay. Like it's very close.
8-10.
So it feels like Roberta, adjacent, basically.
But it's in itself. There's a history behind Knoxville because it was a real bustling city. And that was our county seat. And there's a lot of history in that old courthouse as well. The other thing is that there were little dots and pieces of townships that were operating, because you have to take note that this was all dirt roads and wagon roads and horse rides and mule rides. It wasn't something that you could just take off and do. Now you can go right through 80 and get to us, or you can come up 341 and get to us. We're right in the middle of two major highways that were the breakthrough for this area until the interstate came. And the interstate is fine, but if you get off onto the side roads, you can really find out some very interesting things, especially right here.
Yes.
Because of the way it was structured and because of the way it grew.
Yeah.
So, but there's little townships also.
Yes.
Named all over.
Yeah. And that's it's very interesting. Before I, started learning about the area more, driving through here and then through Knoxville, I was like, there's got to be a very fun backstory here, because I couldn't figure out why there were so many beautiful, large buildings not in downtown Roberta. And, that's when people said, oh, that's Knoxville. That's where you were. And I was like, well, what happened? So it's just very interesting. I love how you're keeping that history in the present also by incorporating it and not just ignoring it. And, because a lot of communities, unfortunately, when they, kind of shift, as things do when time goes by, it seems like the old just rots away and disappears.
Another thing, it's not just this history. It's related to Texas history, too.
Okay.
Because this young lady there was a war going on between Mexico and Texas. And so we had many soldiers coming through. They marched through Knoxville. Joanna Troutman took a shine to one of these gentlemen, and he was a soldier, and he wanted to make sure that they had a flag to take down there. Well, from her petticoat, she constructed this beautiful flag. It was one lone star, and that's how Texas got their...
What?
They had their state flag because of her.
That is wild.
So it's getting wilder. She was buried... after she got married, she was buried on the property like everybody else always did. And Texas decided that they wanted to come up and exhume her body and take it down there and put it in a better place where she could be looked at. Well, they did. Some people didn't want it to happen and other people didn't care. But she was exhumed. They took her body down to the Texas in Austin, the cemetery, and she had one of the highest, and the taller it is, the more effective and more important that person was. And it was one of the tallest monuments down there.
Oh my gosh, that's fascinating.
Yeah. And actually, another fun fact is that outside of the state of Texas, Knoxville is the only place that is actually legally allowed to fly the Texas flag.
Oh my God.
At a government building. There's actually currently one there now with the information about it.
Oh my gosh. That is just so neat. That is really, really cool. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to read more about her. That's just that's what I love. I think that's what a lot of people love about, traveling to different communities. And I really love that. We talked about a few new things that are coming to JugFest this year. Have we covered everything that y'all have coming? Maybe we talk about that in a little bit more detail. So you've got like a normal like artist or artisans market,
Yes.
where they can shop like other festivals would, of course. But you've got heavy focus on pottery.
Yes.
Where you can actually buy from.
Yes, we do have artisans that come as vendors and set up, but we also have the kiln sale, which is when they actually do fireworks. That's when they pull them at site, and you pretty much you bid and buy them then.
Oh,
like
wow.
at the sale itself.
Okay.
We have that in the morning.
Okay.
And then in the afternoon, we actually have a pottery auction.
Okay.
We get pieces in from old and newer of different places. We've gotten in touch with some of the people who we have put in pieces before. We're also reaching out to people who used to come to them. And this is all over the state.
Okay.
Because it's not just, the Crawford pottery and the pottery that was made here did not just stay here.
Right. Yes.
It traveled to surrounding areas. It is not just like within the confines of the county.
Yeah.
And you have many people. And I mean, honestly, and the pottery is beautiful. I mean,
yes.
To look at it as a piece of art, but it's also, I mean, especially a lot of the older pieces, to look at the uses that it had.
Yes.
Very few people think about what goes into if you had to make yourself make your own bowl, make your own plate.
Right.
These are things that we don't think about in a modern time now, because we go to Walmart and buy one.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There wasn't like a disposable anything.
No, there was not. You made what you needed.
Yeah.
Or if you could not make it, you got it from your neighbor or for someone who did.
Mm-hmm.
And so, things traveled. Things traveled as far as, again, you come down with the home distillers.
Yes.
Who would sell their things, especially during, like the eras of prohibition and things like that.
Right.
But also at the time, it really wasn't uncommon for people to distill their own spirits.
Right.
And to do that. It's one of those things that you don't really think about it.
Right.
I mean, and you don't think about the work that goes into making. I mean, we have machines now that do stuff.
Exactly.
You don't think about the work that goes into the fact
and we've
that they
lost
had
a lot of the artistry because of that.
Yes. To some extent, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as widespread as it was.
Yes. And that's why I think that so many people, even like really young people, are fascinated by it, because that's not a way of life for us anymore.
And this is where I'm going to step in just for a minute. With the chamber is responsible for everything down on the field.
Okay.
And we focus on our pottery.
Oh, okay.
To go along with everything. But we also focus on the handcrafted the items that are out there for sale.
Right.
And the community, and bringing the community into it so that we can show the whole thing, because your plant life started right here, and it's grown with the gardeners. Your pottery people who come here are very nice and have been coming in for years, and some of them for years.
Yes.
And then you've got all of the quilters that are also they're going to be here, as well as all the other handcrafted items that you kind of like to have, but you don't want to learn how to do it.
Maybe. Some of us do.
Some of them do. She does. I sew with needle and thread. That's it.
I love it.
You can see the actual art. This is not just something that should be celebrated, but really looked at as something that is true art.
Absolutely.
And
usable art.
And usable
depending
art.
on, what kind of pottery you're into, Some people only want the decorative thing. I just think that's I love it. I love it so much. And I like how if you come by the Chamber of Commerce in Roberta, you can see the different examples that they have. So what about activities for kids while they're there?
A huge thing like we did last year.
Okay.
It's going to have a huge slide, and then there's going to be other things that are going to be out there just for the children. We have sand pit where they can look for
shells, shark teeth, and reproductive arrowheads. Because Crawford does have a very rich archaeological history.
Sure.
Not just with the pottery,
Okay.
So one of the things we do with the kids is, they can kind of do a dig.
That is
A dig
fun.
thing, just for something, that they can do and find. And I figured out what they like and what they don't. So,
and again, it's a fun activity,
Yes.
but it's a nod to history in
It
Crawford
is.
County, which I love that. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one of many things, we definitely do the slides and stuff.
So they have lots of fun things to do.
And
so if people want to volunteer, should they contact y'all through the Facebook pages or contact Miss Patty at the chamber?
Actually, they could contact through the Historical Society Facebook page.
Okay.
If they do a direct message, and I can reach out. But it's also not just the Historical Society needs help. Miss Patty does so much planning with this and so much of it on her end. And there are things that people don't think about that have to get done. We need volunteers to help. And it can be very small things, but we are asking for help.
And many hands make light work.
Yes, they do. And it also makes it enjoyable so everybody can kind of still be involved and actually be a part of it and not just work the event.
Yeah. Then you have a little piece of ownership of a really fun community event.
Well, that, and you find out so much.
What about, so we talked about activities in the morning. You're going to have food vendors, of course, where they can enjoy that. And so then when we segue into the evening.
No. There's more down there in the field.
Okay. What else?
There's also a puppy contest or a dog contest, the queen or king of the dogs. And there's also a little mister, either.
Yeah.
That's going to be going on stage. We've got a stage down there. There'll be music from the high school.
Okay.
There'll be music from other people. And we're just going to have a good time down there before we move into the way to get everybody to come up here to Roberta. And it's going to be a soapbox derby because we've got the perfect hill for them to go down.
Yes.
And then they have to come right up into Roberta to get their trophy. So that'll be the beginning of the evening affair, because we do want it to be an all-day event. And we want everybody to have a good time at this all-day
Absolutely.
event. Them to be able to enjoy this.
Yeah.
And have fun dancing on the streets. All of that's going to be available. So we want everybody to come and really want to have a good time.
Yeah.
And really find out how important Crawford County and Roberta are to a lot of people. We've got
and delicious restaurants.
Yeah, delicious restaurants that we have here. But the festival is something that is only going to ever belong to Crawford County because of where it starts from.
Yeah.
And it started with the pottery.
And people are so obsessed with all these shows on Netflix that make you feel that small town feel, like Virgin River series. And there's just a lot of shows that kind of have that Hallmark vibe. So I would just say, if you love those kind of shows or movies, then turn off your TV and come experience it in person, in real life. You can be a part of it. You can live your own Netflix movie.
Vendor if you want.
Exactly. So if they do want to be a vendor, how should they find out more information about becoming a vendor?
They're going to contact the Roberta Crawford County Chamber of Commerce, or they can also contact the Historical Society.
Yeah. Okay.
And
so either way is fine, and they can get an application and go that route. Awesome.
And they can stop right here, right across the street from each other.
Yes.
Because her business is right across the street.
And the chamber's right next door to the Red Caboose.
Yes.
So you cannot miss it.
Can't miss it.
So let's repeat the times for everybody again. It's always the third Saturday in May. This year, that's Saturday, May 18th, 2024. The 5K and fun run starts at 7:30.
Yes, and they do need to be pre-registered for that.
Okay.
But they can, like I said, they can contact the Facebook page for it, or they can contact the Historical Society, and I can get that information sent on.
And again, that's going to be in the show notes if you just want to click straight through. And then you have the festival for the vendors and the potters and all the activities for the kids. That starts up at 9.
Yes.
Goes until about 4:30 down in the field.
Yes.
And then everything moves over to downtown Roberta after that.
to the David Bailey Park.
Okay.
Down right in the center of Roberta.
Okay.
Yep.
You can't miss it. Just look for the caboose.
Okay.
There'll be areas that will be with signs for various parking.
Okay. Well, I think that this is going to be a lot of fun this year. I'm excited to see how many people come to the area and people coming out of their homes and enjoying this that also live here. And again, make sure that you look in the show notes. If you have any questions and you don't see it listed here, make sure that you either reach out to the Roberta Crawford County Chamber of Commerce or the Crawford County Historical Society, and you will get all of your questions answered. And thank you all so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for joining us today. Until we chat again, I hope you get out and explore all that Central and Southwest Georgia have to offer.